can't hold people accountable to standards you haven't set, and that includes yourself. This is going to be a little bit longer of a conversation because I'm stuck in Phoenix traffic driving home, and I need something to talk about to take my mind off of the nonsense. So let's talk about standards. Let's talk about behaviors, expected behaviors. And the idea that you, whether you're talking about you in a relationship, you and your daily decisions of what you want to accomplish, your team, if you're a boss, if you're a minion working for somebody, whatever the situation is, however you want to apply this, you cannot hold people accountable to standards you haven't set. How does that impact your work? How does that impact your daily habits for health and well-being and nutrition? How does that affect your relationships, both from people that you're in a relationship with and how you present yourself to your relationship? If you don't set standards, you can't be surprised when people don't act in a way that you don't like. Because otherwise, what kind of standards are you using in order to hold them accountable? Do you have some kind of imaginary boundaries in your head that people are just supposed to understand? When you tell people, I don't like the way that you're treating me, okay, well, how are you expecting people to treat you? And is it appropriate based on the circumstances? Are you holding yourself to the same standards that you're trying to hold everybody else to? Or do you feel like you're above standards and accountability and you want to hold other people to certain standards, these invisible standards inside of your head? What kind of relationship do you have with your spouse or your significant other or your mom or your dad or your brother and your sister? Have you had conversations where you've let them know this is specifically what I'm looking for in a relationship? And to go a step further, because this gets really chaotic often with family, because for some reason, family members believe that because you're family, they have the right, they are entitled to treat you a certain way with no consequences. And that is extremely detrimental to your mental health. You have to be able to set standards of accountability and behavior, especially with the people that are closest to you. You have to be able to tell your sister, brother, mom, dad, son, daughter, that this is my expectation. If you don't uphold that standard, you're not entitled to my time and attention. I can love you and also exclude you. Think about a friend, because here's an easy comparison. If you had a friend that treated you poorly, like some family members feel they're entitled to do, would that person still be your friend? Would you have friends long term that you treated poorly? Would they stand you for the behaviors that you show in your relationship with your family members? I can think of a lot of people that would just be out. Sorry, you're not allowed to be my friend anymore. Or if they are willing to endure that, are they really healthy? The fact that somebody would allow you to mistreat them, how does that work when it comes to healthy relationships? If you want to be respected, you have to be respectful. And that starts with an outcome in mind. An outcome of what does this relationship look like? What are the expectations of behavior? How are we going to treat each other? This is a lesson I learned from my spouse early on. I come from a very chaotic background when I was young, and an early marriage in my life that I wasn't ready for, and I didn't know how to do all this stuff that I talk about doing now. And I remember early on in my relationship with my now wife, and we had a moment where there was some conflict, and I remember walking away, and I think I grabbed my dinner and I went and sat in my office at home. And I remember her walking in and very calmly sitting down and grabbing my hand and saying, We don't do that in our relationship. And wow, you talk about a ton of bricks right on my chest. I was like, wow, this woman is for real. She is exactly what I want and exactly what I need. Because right in that moment, she laid down the law. Not the law, like she wasn't in charge. She was trying to build a relationship. She was trying to enhance a friendship. And she was trying to lay down standards. And her standard was, we don't treat each other that way. And I have been, from that moment on, working my ass off to uphold the standard that her and I have set. And I still fall short sometimes, not as often as I used to, but it still happens. But at least we have a standard so that she can come to me, or every once in a while I can go to her and say, hey, this is the standard we set, and I don't feel like the standard is being upheld, because we have set the standard. We have the rules of behavior, the rules of engagement in our conflict, and how we treat each other and how we respond and respect each other. I had the opportunity to travel to California this weekend with a team that I help coach, a college team. And I turned down the coach and I said, no, this is my weekend with my wife. We don't have anything specifically set up, but I knew there was going to be some quality time. And I chose her over the team because I knew it was important, because I had said in my mind, I didn't say anything to my wife about what we were going to do. I just knew that I wanted to spend more time with her. And she told me, yeah, good choice. But later on said, if you really want to go, I respect that. And I think that you should go if you really want to go. And I said, no, I already told Coach no, I'm not going. And I'm standing by that, because this is the kind of relationship that I want. I want to put my spouse first. And if I say I'm going to do that, I have to follow through. And I am. So I want you to really think about what that means with the end in mind, right? I'm going to go climb a mountain. Okay, well, what do I need to do? There are a lot of things I need to do to go climb a mountain, like a big mountain. And trying to figure out the milestones to get to that point, right? And I realize relationships are not a peak. You're never going to get there. It's always going to be work. But you see what I'm getting at here, right? You have to have an end in mind, and an end being what would a healthy, effective friendship within a relationship look like? How do we want to treat each other? How do I want to think about my spouse? How do I want other people to see through my behaviors where my heart is and where my values are? And then what is it going to take? I use the example with some of the sports teams that I work with. We call them above the line and below the line behaviors. Above the line behaviors are those things that if you want to be part of this team, you have to do these things. So like with my college players, if you want to be part of this team, you have to go to school. You have to go to your class. You have to do your homework. You have to have a certain grade. Those are, you can't be drinking during the week. You have to show up to practice. You have to be wearing the right gear. You have to be on time. You have to have your notebook during classroom sessions. These are things that are non-negotiable. You have to do these if you want to be part of the team. So if I want to continue to be in a relationship with my spouse, I have to do certain things. Now there's also below the line behaviors. These are things you're no longer allowed to do ever, for any reason whatsoever. I kind of mixed in some of those with the team. You're no longer allowed to drink during the week. You're no longer allowed to get into fights. That's not what we stand for. I realize, rugby, the one that I coach, it's a tough sport. You're a bunch of tough guys, and you're a bunch of young guys. I get it. But if I find out that you're going out to the bars and getting into the fights, we're going to have a much different conversation, because that is no longer acceptable. And we have, for certain reasons, dismissed people from the team because there was a complaint. We did our due diligence, found out they were correct. They didn't want them on the team. Coach dismissed them from the team. Relationships are the same way. There are certain things I'm not allowed to do anymore. And it sounds obnoxious to list some of these things. But if I want to be a strong spouse, if I want to be an outstanding spouse to my wife, I no longer get to go out on random Tuesdays, get drunk. I no longer get to not even sleep with, but even flirt with other women. That is no longer acceptable. I don't even get to be flirtatious. Not acceptable. That is a below the line behavior. And so we have this vision, this outcome in mind of what a healthy, productive relationship would look like day in and day out. And then what are the things that we need to do? A lot of self-reflection, self-regulation, and self-development. Because my wife does not complete me. I could live without my wife, but I don't want to, right? The idea that I don't need her. I need her now because she's amazing and I don't want to live without her. But if I'm not willing to stand up, if I am incapable of standing up on my own without her, I am eventually at some point in time and in some way going to be a burden to her rather than being a partner with her. And so I have to make sure that everything that I do, I am working on myself, self-reflection, self-regulation, and self-development so that she can be a good partner to me by working on herself. And then she's not a burden to or on me. She's good on her own. And then we come together and we are strong together and we support each other, and I'll be there for her. And if she can't give 100%, then I'm going to fill in the gaps and we're going to be 100% together. We're going to figure that out. But in a sense that she is not in a relationship to complete her. She doesn't need me to complete her. She was doing just fine on her own. And that's one of the things that attracted me to her. She wasn't one of those, I'm a strong, independent woman. No, it was, I am a strong, independent woman. I want to be in a relationship, and here's all the reasons why I'm of value to you, because I'm a good person and I bring all these things. And it was necessary for me to be able to go and do all those things as well. I need to be a strong, independent man who can handle his own finances, his own business, and do all these things necessary to make sure that I'm not a burden to my relationship and expecting my wife to save me. So that's what we decided together. And a lot more things that I haven't really touched on, but your relationship is yours. Your life is yours. And so this is something that, don't blueprint what I'm doing. Try to figure out what are the standards of behavior. Because if you do not set the standard, you will never be able to hold somebody accountable. So what does your life look like? What are the standards that you expect? What does it mean for you to have a healthy, effective life? Notice I didn't say happy and healthy. Healthy and effective. Because if you focus on being healthy and effective, the happiness will come through purpose and passion. But you have to have something that you feel joy in doing, and even if it's a grind, you feel that you have something to contribute and that you have some type of expertise, or you're building your expertise. And it's through that struggle and demonstration of your skills that you will feel fulfilled and eventually feel happy. So it's less about chasing happiness and more about seeking fulfillment and competence in your knowledge, skills, and abilities. And through that, you will feel the confidence to stand up and say, I am worthy of standards. I am worthy of above the line and below the line behaviors. So therefore, I can hold other people accountable. Whoever it is in my life, I can hold other people accountable to the standards I have set for what I want in my life. Until you do that, you will be chasing. And you don't want to be stuck chasing things, because it's hard to chase something you haven't defined.